Hello, welcome again to the second part of the lecture which we were discussing earlier, that is popular struggles and movement. My name is Ashwin Joglikar and I am from Resonance PCCP division. So today we will be discussing about the further topics, that are pressure groups and movements. Now in terms of pressure groups and movement, there can be sectional interest groups and public interest groups. Now as the name suggests, sectional interest groups can be related to a certain section of the society, and public interest groups are again based on a general public or a larger group. Now the differences here are, the sectional interest groups seek to promote the interest of a particular section or a group of society. The public interest groups whereas promote the interest of the common people in general. Examples again, trade unions, business associations and professionals like lawyers, doctors, etc. Here public interest groups have human rights organization as well as BAMSEF. Now in sectional groups again, they are sectional because they represent a particular section of the society, and they are public because issues are much more relating to the society as a whole. Fourth, their principal concern is betterment and well-being of the members of the particular section. Their principal concern is the betterment of the whole society. The second topic is movement groups. Again, they can be classified into issue specific or generic movement. That is, the groups which try to achieve a single objective within a limited time frame or a broad goal in a very long term are known as movement groups. The Nepalese movement for a democracy was again because they had issued an ultimatum to the king and had a specific objective of reversing the king's orders that led to the suspension of democracy. In India again, Narmada Bachao Andolan is a good example of this kind of movement, target specific, which is you can say the movement started with the specific issue of the people's displaced by the creation of Sardar Sarovar Dam on river Narmada. Its objective was to stop the dam from being constructed. Gradually it became a wider movement and trying to engulf other areas of interest as well. Was to stop the dam from being constructed. Later on it became a wider movement that questioned all such big dams and a model of development that required such dams. Movement of this kind tend to have a clear leadership and some organization as well, but their active life is usually short, because as the thing has been completed or finished, the movement itself dies out. Environmental movements can be for a long term, ongoing movements. The environmental movement and the women's movement, for example, are classic example of movements with long term objectives, because this is an ongoing thing. There is no single organization as such that controls or guides such movement. Environmental movement again is a label of a large number of organizations and issue specific movements. All of these have a separate organizations and probably independent leadership and often different views on policy related matters. Yet all of these share a broad objective and have similar approach, that is their environmental concerns, and that is why they are called a movement. Moving on to the next part, that is pressure groups and movement exert influence on politics in a variety of ways. That is how these pressure groups and movements by their public participation directly influence the people who are in power. That is, first of all, raising public issues which are again of utmost importance to the general public. They try to gain public support and sympathy for their goals and their activity by carrying out information campaigns, organizing meetings, file petitions, etc. And most of these groups try to influence the media again into giving more attention to these issues. Organize protest activities. They often organize protest activities like strikes or disrupting government programs in order to force the government to take notice of their particular demand. And participation in the working of government. Some persons from pressure groups or movement groups may participate in official bodies and or committees that offer the advice to the government. Now impact on political parties. Many of the political parties also take up certain issues and probably can increase their own influence. Interest groups and movements do not directly engage in party politics, but they seek to exert influence on political parties, and most of the political parties take agendas from these organizations, again because these organizations are talking about the issues which are related to the common man or the general public as such. Most of the movement groups take political stance without being a party. They have a political ideology and political position on major issues. The relationship between political parties and pressure groups can take again different forms, sometimes direct and sometimes quite indirect. They are also extended arms of political parties. In most of the cases, the pressure groups are either formed or led by leaders of the political parties. They also act as extended arms of the political parties. For example, most of the trade unions they have, and even students organizations are also both the parties. Probably in India, if we consider BJP as well as Congress, that is Indian National Congress, have their own trade unions as well as student organizations. In India are either established or by affiliated to one of the major political party. Most of the leaders again are from the pressure groups are usually activists and leaders of the party. Now, new parties also sometimes sprang up within this movement or because of the movement. There are many instances when these movements give birth to a political party. For example, when the Assam movement led by students against the foreigners came to an end, it led to the formation of Assam Gana Parishad. The roots of parties like even DMK and AIADMK, that is Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam, and All India Anna Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam in Tamil Nadu can be traced to a long drawn social reform movement during the 1930s and 40s. Last point about this is about indirect relationship. That is, in most cases the relationship between parties or interest group is not so direct. Why? Because they often take positions that are opposed to each other, yet they are always in a dialogue and discussion and negotiation, and movement groups have raised new issues that have been taken up again later by political parties for their own benefits. Most of the new leadership of political parties comes from the interest or movement groups, because these interest or movement groups have already given an image to that particular person. Now, is their influence healthy in the democratic society? A pressure group is an organized or an unorganized body that seeks to promote its own interest, maybe the interest of a particular section or of the public as such. It is formed by people having common interest, occupation and opinions. It aims to influence the government policies and form the public opinion in general. They do not aim to attain power as such in the government, they just seek to promote their own interest. These interests can be of specific nature or section of the society or of the whole society in general. Now, again later on it is argued that sectional interest groups are not good for the democracy. Why? Because they promote only the interest of their particular society or their particular section and ignore the whole society as such in general. This gives more importance to that particular society or section of the society. The pressure groups are not accountable as such to the people in general. They are not answerable to the general public for their actions and decisions, and they can also influence public opinion by spending a lot of money on advertising their idea. So, these are again some of the counterpoints for it. However, pressure groups are not completely unhealthy for a democracy. They help the people of a particular section to voice their opinions, to voice their viewpoints, interests and demands. It gives the people from the socially weaker sections especially of the society to raise their issues and interest. No one sectional group can put extra pressure on the government. If a particular section puts extra focus only on its interest, members of other sectional groups can also raise their own demands as a counter to that. This helps in maintaining the overall balance or demands between the various groups in the society. Now, that brings us to the end of the chapter. Thank you so much.